Hey, look at that. Can see the studio. Everything's cool. What up, YouTube land? Yeah, don't look at my mess back here at all, please. Okay, here we go. Starting to show off right. Hey, GalaxyCast fans! Welcome to this episode of the GalaxyCast. I have 3 people in the studio tonight. I have with me Eric the Artist.
I am not the Mandalorian.
I have with me Gary the Stud.
I think I am one.
And I am Bob Chrisman, who is formerly Jack Sparrow. So we have a lot to talk about tonight, so we're going to get right to our point. Before we get into our first subject, we're going to talk about Johnny Depp and his role in Pirates of the Caribbean. We're going to talk about the theft on the set of The Mandalorian.
Dum.
Why'd you do it, Bob?
Hey, shh. We're going to talk about the history of the Mandalorians themselves. We're going to talk about the Star Wars Boba Fett movie and what's going on there. And we're going to talk about John Williams and what's going on with John Williams. Okay, so first thing we wanted to talk about tonight was the supposed idea that Pirates of the Caribbean is getting a reboot. Which, you know, I kind of saw that coming. So anybody who's watched the Pirates of the Caribbean movies knows that with the last movie, there was a massive reboot coming anyway. I'm trying to remember the name of that last movie. So hang on, I'm looking that up.
I'm trying to remember them all.
That's why I'm looking it up right now.
One was Dead Man's Chest, wasn't it? Or something?
Yep. Well, I know it was Curse of the Black Pearl.
Stranger Tides.
That was number 3 was Stranger Tides.
Right. Dead Man's Chest, I think, was 2. Stranger Tide was 3.
End of the world. No.
World's End was 4.
First, yeah, Curse of the Black Pearl, then... Oh, Dead Man's Chest was the second one.
Was the second one? Okay. So
and then At World's End.
At World's End.
Then Stranger Tides in 2011. And the most recent one, if you scroll down, was...
Dead Men Tell No Tales.
Yeah.
And
I haven't seen either Stranger Tides or Tales.
And actually, they're not bad, by the way. So if you ever get a chance, go see them.
I'm going to watch them.
They're totally worth it. I will give you the spoiler that almost everybody comes back on Dead Men Tell No Tales. I think it's one of the reasons they did it. But they also ended it open-ended.
Right.
Very open-ended. And spoiler alert, they talk about the kids.
Right.
Because there's kids now. And that's kind of where I thought they would pick up.
There was a kid at the end of...
well, right.
I
was going to say,
End.
If you saw the end of World's End, you know there's a kid.
Yeah.
They get into it a little bit when they get into it with on Stranger Tides, but they really don't talk about it too much. Dead Men Tells No Tales really gets into the kids, like what happened with both Johnny's kid and who's the part that Orlando Bloom plays. I forget the character's name now.
Will.
Thank you.
Turner.
Will Turner has a kid too. We find out, and so we find out.
Wow, that's awesome.
What's that?
Well,
together, that's awesome.
Yes, they had one together.
Will Turner's kid was the one at the end of World's End.
Correct.
3.
We find out about Johnny's kid too.
Oh, okay.
So there's both of them have a kid. That sweater's disturbing.
I know.
I'm sorry. I just keep seeing that. I'm like, why? Sorry.
Yeah, for
YouTubers.
Sorry. YouTubers see it, but for those who are listening to the podcast,
right, that's
this doesn't get edited out.
Yeah, this is going to get edited out.
Okay.
But for my YouTubers here, we're looking at this. There's something wrong about that. I'm sorry.
That's a horrible hoodie. I would never wear that.
Who would order that? Especially the back. That's just like, ew. Okay, I gotta get it off there because people are gonna totally ditch our channel for looking at that.
Their sales are gonna go up right now. Oh, it's back! You were scrolling. It's there again.
Oh my gosh, it keeps appearing. Okay. So the rumor is they're going to reboot Pirates of the Caribbean, which I'm actually okay with. But they're gonna leave Jack Sparrow
out. It's gonna be a true reboot,
which is a true reboot. I'm actually okay with that, though.
Okay, are they going to leave Jack Sparrow out, or are they leaving Johnny Depp out?
Well, that's the question, right? Or do they recast somebody else as Jack Sparrow?
Right.
I think it's difficult on 2 levels. I think it's hard to follow up Johnny Depp.
It is. That character was
He was iconic in that character.
Yeah.
But
and what's amazing is, and they talk about it in the article, how much of a risk it was at the time to give him this major role in a tentpole film, and how weird he was being on set with this character. And everyone was like, is this going to work? I mean, this is not a hero character. What's going on? And then it hit the screen, and people fell in love. People loved it.
Well, and I guess because he was in character so much, he wasn't taking direction well because he was in character. And so they would tell him what they needed out of the scene, but Johnny was answering as Jack Sparrow. kind of like Jim Carrey when he would get a little out of control with his roles.
The stuff he started doing, especially after playing Andy Kaufman, he started taking that to heart.
Yeah, and so Johnny did that here. Now, he's had tons of problems since Pirates of the Caribbean 2, and ironically, imagine this, a drinking problem. I can't help but think he was partially drunk on the set anyway.
Of course, there's all the stories of him doing abuse, and people are mad that he's been cast in the Fantastic Beast movies, saying he shouldn't be.
What role was he in?
He's Grindelwald.
Oh, he's Grindelwald.
He was at the very end of the first one. Spoiler alert for those who haven't seen Fantastic Beasts. The whole movie, you think that, what's his name, Colin Farrell is the bad guy.
Right.
And at the end, Colin Farrell, thanks to the pomegranate potion or whatever the hell they call it, the stuff that transforms you and makes you change, he changes into Johnny Depp. And he's been hiding, Grindelwald has been hiding as that character the whole movie. And now Johnny Depp is the main character, villain-wise. He's kind of the Voldemort of the new series. He's the main bad guy in the sequel coming out this Christmas.
Right.
And people are like, he should have been recast. It should have been refilmed. There's people in an uproar over it.
And I guess my question is, because of the abuse, is that...
Because the story is he was someone who was a physical abuser. And at that point, it's like, do you give people who are physical abusers multi-million-dollar contract movies? Or do you find because there's so many actors out there, do you find somebody else? Should these people be... I mean, he's not being rewarded for being an abuser. It's not like they're going, hey, hire him because he's an abuser.
Right.
But should there be a punishment if that comes out? And then there's arguments that it didn't happen, it's been exaggerated, but then people are saying he's an awful person, others are saying not. It's one of those things where both sides of it have been touted to no end on the internet. So,
and I guess this is where I am always like, we have a court system for a reason. Like, public opinion, the court of public opinion, I don't think really should exist. To me, there's a court system for a reason.
Right.
And a lot of people are just a little too quick to jump on bandwagons, I guess is the best way to put it. Because you don't need to have evidence to be a bandwagon jumper. But to me, the public opinion is what,
Right.
Go to the court system. If there's something there, there's something to go after.
The problem is, back, when people used to be accused of something, apart from newspapers, you didn't hear about it much.
Right, you're right.
There was no social media. There was no
24-hour news feed.
And now and not only that, when you did hear the news, you never heard the mass public opinion and every single person commenting.
Right.
Now, everyone can comment on life itself in every way, shape, and form. So it's kind of like just out of control in terms of just feedback. There's just so much feedback.
I agree.
It's hard to
Absolutely.
sift through.
Yeah, and everybody wants their opinion to be right. That's just the truth.
So personally, as the character, I thought Johnny Depp was iconic. Jack Sparrow is going to go down in history as one of a great character.
That's what I'm saying is hard to follow up. Yeah. How do you follow Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow?
Someone has to play the son of Jack Sparrow and be different. Create a new weird character.
Could be like him, but with different quirks. And I would actually be okay with that. That would work for me. To have a Will Turner-esque type character, that would work for me. I guess my question now is, who's your bad guy? You know what I mean? Like, and you've done so many iconic stories. You've covered the Dead Man's Chest. You've covered what is it called when you're dead in the ocean?
The Davy Jones.
Yeah, Davy Jones' locker. Thank you.
And the boat and the
boat. Right. The Flying Dutchman. You've covered all the tales behind all of that. So there's really not a lot of pirate tales left to be told.
Well, I can't say we're experts on pirate lore.
I'm not an expert.
Big,
no,
famous ones.
That's what I'm saying.
You say Davy Jones' locker. Most people have heard that phrase.
Right.
And so that character worked.
Right.
But you could come up with something more obscure.
Sure.
And like right now, I could say the Mary Celeste.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting story that's kind of a ghost ship. Certainly nowhere near as iconic as Davy Jones, but they might be able to do something with something like that. But most people will be like, the what?
Yeah. And that's my point. Like you need to research it a little bit to get it. They've kind of hit all the big ones. Even in the last movie, they show you why the pirates carry the skull and crossbone flag, which I thought was kind of cool that they got into that. And so there's a lot of lore that they've already covered. I'm not saying there's not more lore they could cover, but it's kind of at that point where it's like they've covered the big ones. So like what all you have left is the small stuff.
Well, let's hope it's not
unless
a reboot,
you make stuff up,
or like a lot of reboots do. Let's tell the story over again.
Right. Let's do it a different way.
No, see, I hate that.
What if they? So here's one I was thinking about too as I was reading this article. What if they tell a completely different story, but in the same timeline as Jack Sparrow, but it's like something else that's going on over here while Jack Sparrow's doing his thing.
So you hear about him.
Right, you hear about Jack Sparrow. They mention about what's going on, but maybe this is about another thing going on at the same time the Jack Sparrow thing is going on.
Yeah.
Would that work for you guys?
I always like shows that do that if it's done well.
Right.
But it's going to be like, it's going to feel secondary. It's like we saw the big thing and we know what the big things led. If it goes in the same timeline, we know how it ends up. It's like we know who gets defeated, who lives, who whatever. So if you feel like you're following a secondary thing.
So to me, it would feel like every Netflix Marvel show ever, right?
Yeah.
Like they all feel secondary.
They're all secondary. Or, you could go and say the prequels.
True.
You knew what was going to happen in the end.
Anakin becomes Darth Vader. It's not like it was a surprise.
No.
Side note, have you guys been paying attention to all the Netflix Marvel series?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I saw a great one where it's... So Thanos snapping
he
and then
snapped
it
his fingers and
shows the two of them bursting into ashes.
So for those who don't know, on our podcast, the Netflix has been canceling shows left and right. First, they started with Iron Fist. There will not be a season 3,
and that didn't surprise me.
That did not surprise me.
That was just like, yeah, okay, I get it.
I watched season 2 recently. It was.
I heard it was better than the first one.
Better than the first, but still not like anything else we've watched. And now Power Man, right?
Yeah, Luke
Cage has been canceled for his 3rd season. I'm just waiting.
Now they're waiting for Jessica Jones.
I was gonna say the shoe's gonna drop. They gotta wait for Daredevil 3 to come out. It's going out. To. Is it out now?
It's out. Yeah.
Okay. I give it a couple weeks. That'll probably get canceled, and I'm sure Jessica Jones after its latest
now,
season.
Do you think this is all getting canceled by Netflix because Disney's acquiring them and rolling them into their screening? Are the same characters and actors going to come over? Is it going to be rebooted?
I think it'll be completely rebooted.
Oh, that would suck because I like some of these people.
I know you do, and I know. I think the plan is for Disney to pull it into their streaming service. To, as I told you, I still think they're going to work towards a Secret War. So they're going to work their Defenders up. They're going to work their Fantastic Four up, work their X-Men up into a Secret War movie. I think that's why they're doing it. They want everything on their service so they can make money off it. I'd said it a while ago. I didn't see them letting the Netflix show go. So Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't know how our fans feel about it, but it's I liked the idea. I liked the movies.
The thing is, I don't need to see more movies.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I've seen Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Let's do something else.
I guess the thing that concerns me is like the first few movies, there was like 3 or 4 years between each one, right? 4, I think, was the most we'd seen between a movie. And then all of a sudden between On Stranger Tides and Dead Men Tell No Tales, there were 6 years between, which felt like forever. There were a lot of rumors about there being a follow-up to Dead Men Tell No Tales, but nothing ever got confirmed until this article recently came out on Cinema Blend, and now it seems like maybe that's why, Johnny might be out. Gary, what do you think of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies? Do you like them? We've never talked about them.
I like the first one. That's the only one I saw.
So after that, you didn't even see the rest of them?
I actually think the second one was better than the first.
I do too.
I love the second one. It's one of my all-time favorite adventure movies.
Right.
I just didn't understand how they can make a movie about a ride at Disney World.
Yeah, I know. But you got to see it. You got to see the lore they put into number 2. I highly suggest number 2.
I just want to see a good pirate movie, period.
Yeah. Did you watch Black Sails? I think you did, right? I'm sorry. Why didn't somebody take that and make it a movie? Because
awesome.
That show. Did you watch Black Sails?
I never watched Black Sails.
Black Sails was amazing. I mean, just like
I know,
phenomenally amazing.
Had a huge fan base.
I was riveted from beginning to end. I've watched it several times since, from beginning to end. No. I couldn't watch it enough. It was a great play on pirate lore. It really was.
And they did take a lot of liberties in it.
They did. So you have to use a lot of imagination.
Well, it's because certain pirates weren't around with other pirates.
Right.
So I do know my pirates. So
yeah. And I do too. For some reason, I got hooked on that as a kid, and I studied it a lot.
And I think that's why I dislike the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Yeah, because you have to totally suspend everything you know about pirates, because it's not anything.
Disney pirates.
Yeah.
Right. And I get what you're saying, Gary. I always thought it was kind of backwards, too, that they based a movie on a ride. It just seems backwards to me. Like, you'd think you'd do the movie first, then do the ride.
Yeah, it's like the movie Battleship.
I think they need to do a movie about an asteroid, a big, rocky, mountainous asteroid floating in space, and it's called Space Mountain.
I get it. Okay.
People live on it and go through it, and it's got a whole society inside of it.
And you got to take a magic school bus to get to it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And then the people mover have to move people around on it. Yeah.
I tell you, Disney's next movie is going to be called Long Line. And it's all about a long line that
In
everyone
the
just
Disney
stands
parks.
in.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to our next topic. And
Oh wait, so this has I have a quick question. If they
Okay.
reboot Pirates of the Caribbean, are they going to take Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow out of the Pirates of the Caribbean ride because they added him in as an animatronic?
I think you have to leave the animatronic in. I really do. You have
They
to.
had the old ones in there for what, 40 whatever
Right,
years, so
right.
they'll leave him in for 20, 30 years.
Oh, at least.
Okay.
I think he'll stay with that ride till they decide to end the ride.
Whenever he's not there playing the role.
Right, because
Which was awesome. I've
which
seen
was
the
so
videos.
cool. I don't know if you've seen videos of it. It's so cool. I actually like it when he goes to hospitals too and,
Yep.
and
He
surprises
does-
kids
he
and
does
stuff.
cool stuff.
It's,
But that's
it's
the
really
thing.
Cool
So that's
when
the thing is he
that.
does cool stuff, but then you hear stories about him being
Yeah.
an awful person, and you're like, it's hard to reconcile. It was the same with, think about it, Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
As a kid, you idolized the guy. He's
Yep.
like, oh, he was Mr. Perfect Dad, and he had this great home. The TV show was such a huge success.
Still haven't come to
and
grips
now
with
it's
it.
like,
You know what I mean?
no, he's an awful person. He's
Yeah.
a really awful person.
I've
is what
decided
he
he had a split personality. He had the on-screen person we saw, and then there was the
Right.
devil behind that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
But that's where you wonder about these people: is how many people have we loved in life that you never heard these
Probably
stories
more
about?
than you will ever
It's
know.
probably most, because
Yeah.
a lot of people have a dark side, and there's things about people, things that they've done, that I'm sure would be awful if we heard about them today. But since we don't know them, they'll always be an idol to us.
right, exactly.
I chalk it up to like when you meet your heroes and stuff, and then they're not what you thought they'd be.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
I remember the one time I saw Brent Spiner
Yeah.
at a convention, and he didn't even look at me.
Hmm.
I was the only one talking to him, and he was looking everywhere else. He kind of said some things to me, but he wasn't even making eye contact. And I'm like, okay, we're done here. It's like, I just
Yeah.
wanted to say hi. Granted, I'm not giving you money. I'm not walking up and buying a picture. there was no one at your table. I thought I'd say hi and just appreciate your work.
And it kind of goes, and
Yeah.
burst your bubble, right? About what you.
And I'll never forget that. That's just I love Data. I love the character. I love the things he's done. I think he's a pretty good actor and he's a cool guy, but I was so disappointed in that brief interaction.
That was my.
And maybe he just had a bad day. I don't know.
That was my interaction with Anthony Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of burst my bubble about Star Wars actors because I thought they were all amazing guys, and then I met somebody who was kind of a germaphobe.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it kinda-
germaphobe you can't help.
Germaphobe I can't help, but like the reaction to
Yeah.
the germaphobe, like I could handle that, and I get it, but the way he reacted, and Gary could attest to that, was just way over the top. It didn't need to be as over the top as it was.
And I did warn you beforehand.
You did, but I wanted to have my own experience. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to say, okay, I want to see if that was just a bad day you had, right? Like actors can have bad days. And,
Although I did have one of the awesomest times meeting my one childhood hero,
which is who?
Steve Lee Majors, Steve Austin.
Right. Yeah.
That was pretty awesome. Right?
Yeah, and sometimes they are cool.
Yeah.
Sometimes
That was at Steel City Con, right?
Yep.
That we went to, yeah. Yep. And he was cool. He was totally. I was impressed. I was impressed with how cool he was. And you're right. Every once in a while they surprise you the other way. It's like, yeah,
Yeah, like Lou Ferrigno.
yeah. Okay, so let's go on to the next thing we wanted to talk about, which is a theft on the set of Star Wars: The Mandalorian.
Dun, dun, dun.
It was the last wallet you'd ever need.
Well, according to a report from theblast.com, and it's been actually confirmed by pretty much everywhere else, that there was a theft of camera equipment on the set of The Mandalorian, ironically on Manhattan Beach. Now, you guys brought up a point I had not thought of, which I was thinking like they had left equipment out on the beach, which
No.
they make it sound like that in the article,
Manhattan
right?
Beach is the town name, but there's
Right.
there's filming stuff. I've been to like Queens and stuff, and there's actually some big.
Are there big buildings,
studios.
like studio
There's-
lots
Well,
and
yeah,
stuff there? Okay.
a lot of TV shows are filmed in studios in
yeah.
New York City.
Right.
Or over in Queens. They have quite a film production set over there.
Right. Yeah, I knew that. I knew NYPD Blue and a lot of those were filmed over there, and I know currently Blue Bloods is done there because Donnie Wahlberg. is
Talking
over there all
about
the
Bill
time.
Cosby, the entire Cosby Show
was filmed there
in Queens.
Okay,
in
I
this,
didn't know that.
in this studio.
So you made a valid point, Eric. I had not thought of, which was it could have been on an actual closed stage set.
I'll guarantee you they're not leaving this stuff out
Now,
in the open.
Right, and we'll talk about our thoughts on that in a minute. But basically, it's not the camera equipment that's causing the buzz. The buzz is that in amongst all that camera equipment was
The possibility. They're not even confirming 100%. but
right.
they
Well, I
think-
don't think they're gonna confirm it
Yeah.
only because of what it might have. But supposedly there was a memory card, as they are saying, containing sensitive information that may have been jeopardized. So
Jon Favreau was filming a Tinder profile.
So what do you guys think that... First off, let's start with this. Speculation. What do you think the sensitive information was?
Well, it's footage from the show. Probably it could be the Mandalorian without his mask, so we see an actor. It could be all sorts of stuff that they don't want to reveal for another 6 to 8 months or more. Could be on that footage. And it's like, there you go. All your secrets that are helping us to build this suspense story could get
be out the door.
Out the door. And that's huge. That destroys your show.
Right. What do you think it is, Gary? Because I have my speculation. I'm just curious what you think.
It's probably you're going to find out that the Mandalorian is a female or something, or a black guy or something.
Okay.
You know,
Some shocker.
It'll make a lot of people mad.
Okay.
I could really care less who is the Mandalorian.
Yeah, I wouldn't care if it's a black guy or a female. It wouldn't matter to me.
It could be Jabba the Hutt, as far as I'm concerned.
That's the cool thing about Mandalorians, right? Like when you look at the culture of the Mandalorians, which we'll get to the history in just a little bit here.
It's definitely
they picked up any race. It didn't matter.
It's definitely going to be probably a reveal of who
it is,
who is behind the mask.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is they're probably building towards that,
right,
as being like a really cool part of the show. That
right.
Seeing who plays this character could be a famous actor, could be someone we know from other things, could be someone from the Star Wars universe,
right?
You know, under that you don't know, and if that's something they're saving,
yeah, it could be just a stuntman too. And,
yeah,
and they don't want that out.
Here's what I think might be on it. Not just the film, because it's an SD card.
Right.
I'm wondering if the script is on it for a show, which could be a big deal. I'm wondering if the outline for the concepts, right? Like,
well, on camera cards, I don't think they're going to keep those. I think it's going to be pure
you'd like
footage.
to think that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who knows?
Unless there's other memory cards they're talking like they describe it as a memory card. It could be more than one.
Could be more than one. I'm also thinking like, what if Favreau and Lucas, because Lucas had just visited like that day, had sat down and like battered around ideas and they filmed it, right? Like that's what I'm saying. Like,
it could be discussion
could be discussion of an outline of what the series could be about.
That I could see.
That's what I'm saying. It could be like the big deal, right?
I know what it was because Lucas did visit him on his birthday. Mm-hmm. So it's a video of the birthday party.
Happy birthday to you.
It's footage of the Mando doing full frontal. Which is a surprise that no one's supposed to know about.
So here's my other speculation, because Eric brought it up.
He's got a wizard nose.
Yes, he's got a wizard nose.
Have you guys noticed the height of the Mandalorian? Has anybody seen there was a meme out there talking about the potential height of him.
I haven't seen anything to compare how tall
he's not very tall.
Okay.
According to the set pieces, based on what we've seen. Like, say, 5'10", 11, 12, 5'10", 5'11". Who do we know actor-wise is about 5'10", 5'11"? Gary? Starts with a D, has an L in the last name.
Oh, Daniel Logan?
Yeah. So I'm wondering if it is Daniel underneath all of that, which may be the other thing that we could be looking at here. So, all right. So let's say for the giggles of it all that it actually did get stolen and it actually happened. Is it an inside job?
See, a set like this, we're talking a Lucasfilm, big budget, $10 million an episode show.
Right. Lots of people working.
You would think that they would have some serious security locking this thing down. So for someone to come in, get to a camera, take a card, and they're saying it was done at night. I could see if it got snuck out during the hecticness of the day.
Right.
It'd definitely be an inside job because there's people in and out. But they're saying it happened at night. I think they're saying it happened at night.
That's the implication anyway.
And if that's the case, then how do you get past that security? How do you know where to go, what to get? Why take just that when there could be other things that are more valuable? It's like, it sounds like someone could have known what they were doing and could be associated.
Do you think it's an inside job there, Gary?
I kind of think so.
I think it was an inside job in that somebody knew where the camera card was. Maybe they didn't themselves.
I mean, here's the other thing. What if the camera? I mean, if there was only one card and one camera, how do you know which camera to go for? I mean,
right. Well, what I'm saying is, what if the camera operator deliberately left it in a certain place at a certain time in a certain location, so that the person that they tell to go get that
knows what they're getting,
how to get there, and what to get.
And that's what they in the article they say the first thing they did was
they're
interviewing all the people who handled the camera.
Why
why did you leave that there? Were you the one to work this camera? Why was it there? Why was the card still there? I can see those questions being immediate.
Because that would be my other question: is what's the card doing in the camera at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Don't you think is like? as the set director, as the person who's in charge of all this editing and everything else you got to do, don't you think you'd be collecting the cards at the end of every day, right?
You would think, because you download all the footage for dailies.
Right. See, you're thinking like I am, like a producer.
Right. The only thing I could think of is they ended late, and they're going to film first thing early, and they're like, lock down the set, leave the cameras, and we're ready to go.
Right.
I could see that.
Yeah.
But still, the person
just
seems
a
what
little
they're getting.
fishy, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder how Jon Favreau is going to react to it all. I'm hoping later we don't have some sort of like it gets released online thing.
I'm waiting for them to
it
almost blackmail and be like, well, if you want your footage returned,
right?
Give
Pay
us
up
this
$15 million
in Bitcoin.
Yeah,
untrackable Bitcoin to this account.
Right.
Boom.
And then all of a sudden they
very easily
that would
they
be
could do something like
awful for Disney to have that happen. And who knows if they'd pay it or just let it go. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see them paying it. But so anyway, an interesting story. It's kind of a shame it's happening to the Mandalorian itself, but hopefully it'll all get worked out and we find what we're looking for.
Hopefully.
In a few days, they'll say they found it and it was actually misplaced.
Yeah, maybe. We hope. Okay, so Eric passed on to us I thought actually this was a pretty concise article about the history of the lore, ever-changing history of the Mandalorians. And actually, who wrote this? James Whitbrook. I give the guy some credit. This is from io9.com, or io9 Gizmodo, I guess is the same website now. .com. It was a very interesting article and really kind of hit up Boba Fett and the Mandalorians and kind of the culture and where it all came from. And I thought it was very well written. He went from when Boba Fett first appeared, which a lot of people don't know, that Boba Fett first appeared not in Empire Strikes Back, but actually dates all the way back to
the Star Wars special.
Not so existent Star Wars holiday special. I don't know. You guys have watched that, I'm assuming, right? The little clip with Boba Fett.
Yeah.
That's my favorite version of Boba Fett. I don't know if you guys have ever thought about like what the staff that he had. I thought was really cool.
It was very cool.
The coloring of Boba was really cool. And I was kind of disappointed, actually, when we get to Empire and the coloring didn't match. It didn't line up. And I was kind of like, oh, like it's not the same character. But that's okay. I was able to live for it. And so Empire Strikes Back comes out in 1980, and we get this idea that there's this group of people out there. We don't know what they are. Now, it's interesting because they hit up on the idea that Ralph McQuarrie really wanted the Mandos to be super commandos. They were kind of like an elite version of the Stormtrooper, right? Is my initial understanding of what they were.
Yeah, they'd have been the Republic Commandos.
And that's why they were all, why the original was all white,
right?
Wasn't it?
Yeah, because they were supposed to be like a streamlined Stormtrooper that had better equipment, better, jetpacks, all sorts of crazy stuff that the Stormtroopers couldn't afford. Which later, as Gary pointed out, became the Super Commandos for the Clone Wars, which, the idea was there for that.
Oh, the Republic Commandos became the
right.
Super Commandos.
Right. So, so long story short, Boba Fett kind of becomes a thing, but they really don't identify him as a Mandalorian in Empire Strikes Back. A lot of people don't realize that. And it's not till the novelization that they mention the word Mandalorian. And then Marvel came out with a set of comics, and we see, and I actually have the comic. I'll have to dig that out for you guys sometimes. It's interesting to look at. There was a couple cells where they talk about Boba Fett's past, and the Mandalorian protectors show up in a couple of the cells from the comic, which are really, they're cool cells. And then you realize, oh, wait a minute, Boba's not the only one. There's other people dressed like him. There's other people that work like he does. And the one thing I always found interesting was it's not the two guys holding the guns. It's the guy with the gauntlet blasters that I always thought was so cool. I was like, wait, they can fire guns without having a gun in hand? That's kind of cool. This was also the first time we actually started to realize that the rocket packs, because there is another cell where one of them is shooting a rocket out of the rocket pack. And it was like, oh, that's what it's for. So that was kind of cool, too. But Marvel starts doing their thing, and so that becomes a big deal because that's, again, the first time that we see Mandalorians mentioned and the possibility there's this culture of Mandalorians. Then Dark Horse comes along, and they decide to take the Mandalorians back to the Crusader era, which is like back in the Sith and Jedi Wars and the role that the Mandalorians played in that. And that's where we kind of get the idea that they're kind of like samurai. that they have this honor-bound code, and that they all stick together. And then they came out with probably the biggest comic book ever as far as Boba Fett's concerned, and that's Jango Fett's Open Seasons, which came out just after Attack of the Clones, where we finally realized that Boba's not the only one. Jango is his son. There's all this crazy stuff going on.
Jango's the father.
Or Jango's the father, thank you. And all this crazy stuff going on. And
it's so weird to think that back then when we were watching, like, Attack of the Clones and all that,
yeah,
none of this Mando history really existed well. We didn't know a lot of it.
It did and it didn't. Actually, shortly before... Was it shortly before? Yeah, it was shortly before Attack of the Clones came out. There was a Star Wars Insider article. It is an infamous Insider article. And actually, ironically, the author was Karen Traviss. And she wrote probably the most concise story about the history of the Mandalorians. She was the first. This was the first time we see a mention of clans within the Mandalorian culture. We get a glimpse of the language and the lettering of the Mandoa culture. There's an explanation of what Mandoa Day is. There's actually an explanation of what Mandalore, the leader, not the planet, is. And she gets into the culture of Mandalorians. And that was the first time it was ever explained that Mandalorians were kind of like a mixed race culture that would just grab anybody, anything. It didn't matter. Wookiee, Trandoshan, didn't matter. They found people that were left behind. They'd form a new family of this mixed culture and form a clan around that. The idea that family became whatever it was that was around you. So that family didn't have to be blood. It could be your closest friends, your closest people that are going to work with you. I loved that article. Matter of fact, I'll dig it out. You guys would just, you look at it and go, oh my gosh, like, why didn't they just stick to this? Because it was so cool. And it was just the idea that the Empire, in their efforts to put the galaxy together, right, were actually creating more problems, because what they were doing was dividing the galaxy more. And the Mandalorians came along and kind of like scraped at the bottom and found all the people that were being left behind and tried to get them together into a culture. And that's what I thought was so cool about it, was to show that the Empire was failing. And not only was the Empire failing, but it was actually helping the Mandos in the long run. So long story short, the Jango Fett Open Seasons starts to put together this idea that there is this Mandalorian culture out there, and that the Death Watch exists, and all these other things exist. And then, to me, the big turn was when we see Karen Traviss, like, get a hold of this whole thing. She really grabbed on after the Clone Wars, and just before Revenge of the Sith is when the first book came out, right, Gary? I
think so, yeah.
Somewhere right around in that time frame. And, that book was amazing. Just absolutely amazing. And then every book that Karen Traviss wrote about well, and that's the really weird thing. She's writing about the Republic Commandos, but somehow the Mandalorians became the focus of a book about Republic Commandos. It's odd, and it works. It's weird because it's about the clones, but it's not. But it works. So then we see the Knights of the Old Republic get written into this, Tales of the Jedi comics. It's just crazy. And then the weirdest thing in, Star Wars history happens. All this Mandoa, all this stuff gets created. Republic Commando books, Karen Traviss, all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, it was almost like Dave Filoni decided, I don't like what you're doing there.
It was not Filoni's...
Who was the decision behind it?
It was George Lucas.
Was it George?
Yes.
Gosh, I want to go punch him for that.
He didn't want to portray the Mandalorians on screen for a cartoon for kids. To be
this warrior culture,
right.
Is that it? Right. Which is a shame, because in his efforts to kidize it, he ripped down all this great stuff that Karen Traviss had done.
Well, I don't know. You'll probably disagree with me, and the rest of the mercs will probably disagree with me too. But I looked at it as this is a different clan that was in charge.
I knew what you were trying to say, and I get it. But at the same time, by making them peaceful diplomats, I think they took away from the cultural ideal. You know what I mean? The ideology.
Not really, because this is the way this clan that took over was their viewpoints.
I get it. So here's my concern. When I saw it in the Clone Wars cartoon, now I'm really going to get hate mail, because this is not how I think politically either, and it's weird. I think they made all of the Mandos look the same. White, blonde hair, blue eyes. Did you notice that in the Clone Wars?
Oh, made them into Nazis?
Thank you. The Aryan race. Okay, so part of me looks at that and goes, they standardized what the Mandalorian should look like, and I'm like, wait a minute. Mandalorians are supposed to be anything and everything, right? And that's where I got concerned about where they went with that, because the Conquered Dawn and the Death Watch were both that look and that appeal. And I got really concerned about it. Now, what made me feel better once they got away from the
peaceful people?
Well, away from the cartoon itself, the Clone Wars. When they got into Star Wars Rebels, then we started to see, again, that shift towards different cultures, different looks, even different hairstyles and all that kind of crazy stuff. At least it wasn't blonde hair, blue-eyed, everybody looks the same look. You know what I mean?
And what happened in between that?
Well, and that's where the war had happened in between.
No. George sold the...
That's true, to Disney.
Right.
Yeah, true. But you get what I'm saying, right? Like, that was my concern. When they put that on the screen, I was like, whoa, am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? Like, and it actually concerned me. I was actually like, even Satine, fit the profile. The only person that did not fit that profile was Bo-Katan. And I don't know if that was to make her stand out on purpose or not. I'm not quite sure, but she had red hair and I think brown eyes, so it didn't quite, line up with everything else.
Right, which in my opinion is a Filoni creation because it's the Night Owl.
Right.
She's the only one that had the Night Owl helmet.
To make her stand out, I think is really what it was. So that was always my concern about the Clone Wars and what they did to Mandalorians. Then we come out of the other side of it, and now we are looking at the Rebels version of the Mandalorians, which I think really brought it back more towards the old style, right? Like, that was the whole part of the Darksaber, creating a new Mandalore, having the clans come back in and being an important part of the culture. I'm hoping that maybe with the Mandalorian TV show, we're going to see the reinvention of the alien Mandalorian. Maybe, I'm hoping. They bring that concept back in, and maybe that Mandos start to look like what we talked about, which is the people that are trying to bring up all those people that got left behind from before. So... but yeah, it's a good history. I think it's a good way to look at. So, like, if you have no idea what Mandos are, and you want to go watch The Mandalorian before you watch it, you want to get a little bit of a brief history. This is a good explanation of it. Eric, you sent the article to us. Is there a particular reason, or you just thought it was interesting?
I thought it was interesting just to come out now, like you said, as a primer, as they're preparing this Mandalorian TV show. There could be a lot of casual Star Wars fans out there who don't know too much of the history. They go, oh, there's Boba Fett. Oh, there was Jango Fett, and they got turned into clones. And they could never have watched the cartoons because it's kiddie stuff, and so they don't know all the backstory we're seeing there. And this is a good way to kind of reprime yourself on the history of it.
Yeah.
Well, the scattered history that some of it's not right anymore, and apparently some of it's not real anymore, and whatever. But yeah, if you read through this, you have a good base to start understanding. Absolutely. And then you can go on. Hopefully the TV show does stuff in the right direction.
Do you think there's anything they missed in this, Gary? Any big particular gaffes?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Except for that the original Mandalorian culture were aliens.
Right, like there actually was an alien culture called the Mandalorians.
Yeah, that lived on Mandalore.
That lived on Mandalore, right. The indigenous people of Mandalore. Right. That even though they got wiped out, there's still some of them out there. They still actually do exist. The only other thing I really would have wished they would have gotten into a little bit is the mention of Beskar Gam and what that is. For those people that don't know, because it's not in the article, Beskar Gam is the armor that Mandalorians wear, but it's a special type of armor, and they go over it in Clone Wars a little bit. It's not just steel, it's Mandalorian steel. It's able to withstand a lightsaber.
It scrambles the lightsaber. It can deflect any blaster bolt, except I think Chewie's. I think it's like bowcaster's the only thing it doesn't deflect. And it's pretty powerful stuff. It's supposed to be a big deal, and that's why shadow points are my point of death, because supposedly the only way Mace Windu could beat a Mandalorian was to find the shatter point in the Beskar Gam, the weak spot in the armor,
which would be the neck.
Exploit it.
Take off a head.
Well, that's the weird thing about Beskar Gam when you look at it, because everybody's like, wow, it's so amazing, it deflects things. I'm like, but wait a minute, their legs are exposed, like their arms are exposed. So you can't sit there and say they're totally invincible. There are spots where there isn't armor.
Well, think of a cop going out on patrol. He's not wearing...
He's not 100% protected.
No, he's got a vest, and that it's going for the central core area to protect the organs and stuff.
Right. So, like any other armor, there's chinks in the armor. So
yeah, to be fully armored means you're walking around like a knight and you don't have much mobility or visual.
Kind of like we feel when we wear our Beskar again.
I mean, I would think that their visor is a weak point. That a lightsaber to the visor.
I would think so too. I've always kind of thought that too.
Someone could get a straight
straight through the T-visor portion, not the helmet. Yeah. Okay, so that brings us to our next article that we pulled up, and this is from Uprocks and several other sites for that matter.
And guess what? It's more about Mandalorians.
Right. It's been all over the internet today, to be honest with you. It's been confirmed by Kathleen Kennedy that the Boba Fett movie that was supposedly in kind of a pre-production mode is canned. Gone. Done.
100% dead.
100% dead. And I have mixed feelings about this, and I know Eric was just kind of like, "Oh, this could be a good thing," and I was kind of like,
"Well, I didn't know if it's a good thing. I just said there's. I see.
You were trying to see the upside of it.
I see what they're. I think I see what they're doing, which is if you're already spending $10 million per episode on a TV show about Mandalorians, and your movies have notoriously been on the waning side, especially your most recent past telling story being the lowest Star Wars earning in the franchise.
Right.
Do you do 2 projects at once about Mandalorians? And I could see the decision there to people behind doing the books and everything would be like a no-brainer. No, focus on the TV show.
Right. And this way you could bring in Boba Fett possibly into the TV show.
If he survived the Sarlacc and that becomes canon, you want to bring him in, you can into the show.
Right.
And you've got that out, so it's like, why make a movie about his past when the past movies aren't doing that great? And we're doing this big expensive TV show. Let's focus on that. So I think it's purely we've oversaturated the market in certain things. Let's not do it on a specific set of characters. Let's limit that.
Gary, do you think the Solo movie not doing well is specifically to oversaturation, or do you think it's just simply backlash from The Last Jedi?
Backlash from The Last Jedi, because I know a lot of people that would have gone seen Solo had they not seen The Last Jedi.
Right.
You know, like 2 months before.
Right.
But that's the other problem when we say saturation.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Saturation, right? Is it a timing issue, or
if it came out this Christmas? I think it would have done better.
I think it would too, but it was more of the fact that The Last Jedi just
burned so many people
up so bad that they refused to go see Solo.
Right.
And I think that's a shame, you know. But at the same time, I'm thinking maybe Disney's doing the right thing by saying, "Whoa, break." And let's really find out what do the fans really want? Like, what do maybe they're finally listening, maybe, that the fans don't want what they did last Christmas, which was to fans, a bad movie followed by actually a pretty halfway decent movie, but you wouldn't have known because the fans were so upset about the first one, they weren't willing to go see the second one.
Right.
I think it's also the first time Disney's realized they can't just slap the Star Wars name on something and it's going to be amazing. I think they thought that would just be that, right? They could put whatever they wanted out there, slap the Star Wars name on it, and everybody would jump.
Right.
And it was the first time I think that everybody's like, wait a minute, not so much so. And maybe that was an eye-opener. I have mixed feelings about it. The only reason I say I'm not happy about it, it's actually, this is really going to sound really dumb. It has nothing to do with the movie. I feel bad for Daniel Logan. Because he probably would have been the guy to be tapped on to be in the Boba Fett movie. I guarantee that was the discussion. And for him to lose his movie because Disney is making poor decisions is kind of, I don't know. That concerns me a little bit. I like Daniel. I don't think it's fair if that was the plan to take his movie away because they planned things poorly on their end.
Right.
On the flip side, as I said to Eric earlier, trying to look on the bright side of this thing, since Disney's kind of screwing up everything they make into a movie currently, maybe it's a good thing they're leaving Boba Fett alone for right now, because it's one less thing they can mess up. Maybe Filoni can make up for the Skywalker screw-up with the next movie, and then maybe this is, something they look at down the road, possibly.
You mean J.J. Abrams?
Yeah.
Or J.J., sorry. J.J. Abrams, and not Filoni. But I don't know. We'll have to see how this all plays out. But if they don't have him in the movie and then don't have him in the TV show, I'd be a little upset just to kind of erase Boba for a while and not see him at all. I don't know. I'd want to see him somewhere. Okay, the last thing we want to talk about, I'll put it this way. We'll start out by saying this, that John Williams is in my thoughts and prayers, and I'm sure the thoughts and prayers of all of us here at the GalaxyCast. It has come to our attention that he has been hospitalized. Ironically, we don't know from what. We just know that John was supposed to be actually at the Royal Albert Hall tonight as we record, conducting a concert, but he had to cancel. He was also supposed to be at the Vienna Philharmonic on November 3rd and 4th, but he has also canceled his appearances there. Now, luckily, Dirk Brosset is taking his place. Great conductor, by the way, for those who don't know a lot about classical conducting. There could not be a better person to go take John Williams' place. But I'm worried. I'm worried about John Williams. He's 82 years old, and he's not exactly in his young days anymore. You know what I mean? You just don't bounce back from things. Now, Eric, you made the point that it was rather sudden. And so that kind of points to a couple of things. It might have been something like a cold or pneumonia or something like that. And when we said...
not saying... I mean, it could have been anything.
Could be. We're just speculating right now.
Could have been a stroke. Right. We don't know.
We don't know at this point. Pneumonia, even at his age, at 82, is a big deal. Like that's life-threatening at 82 years old. So... my heart goes out to John Williams. My heart goes out to the Star Wars community because I know we're all kind of like on pins and needles, like what's going on, what's happening, Part of me is like, this could be like a potential disaster for episode 9, because he has not written the music for it yet, because usually he waits till principal photography is done. He sits down with principal photography, then writes the music with it. Isn't it? Not all of it. There's a couple reshoots they're going back currently to go back and redo, and Williams agreed to wait. And that's why he doesn't have any of the music done yet. So, I don't know. I kind of hope he's not out for episode 9 now at this point, which could be another pivotal point for a Star Wars movie to not have John Williams on board. That's crazy. I can't imagine in my lifetime I'd be saying, we're going to go listen to a Star Wars or watch a Star Wars movie, but not listen to John Williams' music. Right. It's phenomenal to me.
They'll get Danny Elfman instead.
Oh, gosh. Please, no. Please, no. And then I sit here and I look at John Williams and I say, oh my gosh, when you talk about a storied career, I mean, there's nobody else out there that could say they've got this career. Think about this. He has had 51 nominations for Academy Awards. The only person to have more, Walt Disney. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And he's doing the music to movies, not directing, not producing, he is the guy doing the music. I mean, that's just phenomenal. To have 24 Grammy Awards, 7 British Academy Film Awards, 4 Golden Globes. I mean, it's just the list of the things he's won is phenomenal. I said to my wife the other night when we saw this on Facebook, I'm like, he's on my bucket list. And I'm going to be upset if John passes on before I get a chance to fulfill my bucket list. So for those who want to give me a birthday gift or something, I've been dying for something good this year. That's like my dream is to meet John Williams. I've never met the guy. He's one of the few people I haven't met that I'm like dying to go meet because I just, I don't know. He's on my bucket list. He's one of those guys I want to go pick his brain and just be like, how do you do it? I mean, like that's phenomenal. So, I don't know if you guys had anything to say about John Williams and,
just that I wish him the best. I mean, when it's something, they say a sudden illness is the term they use, but that could still mean anything.
Right.
My hopes is he got a flu-like thing that really struck him down hard, and he needs to be hospitalized. I mean, maybe he's super dehydrated. I mean, all that can happen to you, and you got to be in there for a while. But I hope he's okay. I mean, I just send the best, and hope for the best for him, and we'll just have to wait and hear what the news brings.
The really weird thing for me was it happened 3 days before Carrie Fisher's birthday, and I was just kind of like, that hit hard because I was kind of like, okay. Carrie Fisher, John Williams, it's like, I don't know. There's something about that just hit home. Gary, any thoughts about John Williams?
I just hope he gets well soon as well.
Yeah. Okay, so that's let's wrap up this segment of our episode. So we talked about Johnny Depp and the Pirates of the Caribbean. We talked about the theft on the Mandalorian set. We talked about the history of Mandalorians. And we talked about the Boba Fett movie getting suspended, actually 100% canned at this point, and John Williams being in the hospital. So we'd love to hear what you have to say. Head on over to GalaxyCast.com. Find us on Facebook, find us on Twitter, find us on YouTube, and let us know what you think. And we're going to take a pause for a little bit. We'll be back in just a little bit to watch, after we watch, the latest episode of Star Wars Resistance, which is episode 2. We'll be back in a bit. Okay, there's that stop. And YouTube land, we're going to pause you for a little bit till we watch the show. We'll be back.